Today, we venture outside of the typical itinerary and bring you to the land of the midnight sun, polar bears, and walrus safaris. If you think exploring the world's more distant destinations are out of reach or out of budget, think again. Learn how to expand on a trip you may already have on the books and think off the beaten path.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Welcome.
I was just looking at Shelly and saying, I think I've been the one to introduce the show every time.
I don't think that's true.
You think you've said welcome back first?
I think so. I think we have to go listen back.
I think that's my job. I have it on my badge. You don't see it because this is like radio. I have it. She got me one.
No.
It says second in command.
Yeah. Anyways, today we are talking, it's like a little different of an episode today. Like we're talking about a very specific destination. And while there are a ton of tips and like one, I think, or maybe more than one, but one really good tip like embedded in there, I think this is more just about like, you know, kind of the idea of traveling to like off the beaten path places, because it's definitely not one that you find on a lot of people's like top 10 lists.
Yeah, this is different from our big approach of letting a destination come to you and trying to travel more and go to cities and explore different places. This is definitely like in the realm of expedition adventure travel.
Which is kind of like our other love.
Yes.
Which is that expedition travel. And it's very funny. I've like gotten into Threads lately, which is like kind of a new Twitter, but it's like an offshoot of Instagram. I don't know. I like it because it's like actual community. Like there's a conversation happening. It's not just like pictures and a comment. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what I like about social media. It's why I hang on to my Facebook for dear life, because I like the conversation of Facebook, you know?
Definitely. And there's groups.
Yeah.
It's not
groups,
just like
right.
an endless stream.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, and on Threads, somebody was dissing cruises, which of course we don't do because we have a whole bunch, well, not a whole bunch, we have a couple of cruise episodes, and they're kind of like, that's not real travel. Like real travelers don't cruise. And I was like, I mean, we've like trekked with gorillas. We've gone to the North Pole. Like we've kayaked in the Nile River. We've kayaked in a million different seas. I don't know. My point is like,
this is why I don't want this to become an episode like we've had before of there's no reason to judge what travel is.
Yes, well, that was going to be my point is right. I was like, you can do a lot of things. Like you don't have to be like one type of traveler that's like, I only do this. Like we do all of it.
Yeah, the idea is to explore.
Yeah.
Explore and expand your horizons.
Yeah, and this is a good episode for that because I honestly am not even sure I knew this place existed. Except for when we went actually ahead and booked it, I was like, wait a minute. I feel like I saw a video about this place once, and I found the video, and it definitely was about this place, which is the Midnight Sun, which we'll kind of get into.
But let's not jump ahead. Before we get there, we're going to just talk about how we chose this destination, how long we planned, how we budgeted, and some of our favorite highlights.
And there are some good highlights.
Definitely. So anyway, we're talking about Svlabard.
I almost wanted to like plan that and say it at the same time. I thought it was so lame.
He was on. I saw you. You're looking at me. You wanted to do it. But anyway, Svlabard. Yes, and I know he said the North Pole, which technically there's like you can't really get to that. It's not like a. It's like a literal.
Right. It's not like a town, but like the North Pole, like that Longyearbyen in Svlabard, like is the northernmost town that's still occupied.
Habitated. Yeah. It's like people are there
in the world. So. First off, let's start. I think the main thing like we talk about a lot is the way we save money on travel is how we go about choosing the destination. And this one is kind of like out of the blue. So it's kind of a hard one to like put your finger on of like, you know, how you get there.
Right. And it's not like when we do Scott's Cheap Flights and wait for something to pop up like Panama, like we're going to, you know, or Costa Rica or Paris or whatever.
Right.
This one is definitely in the vein of going on a safari or doing some sort of expedition.
Right. It's like something that probably isn't just going to come to you. Although, you know, since I have been here and obviously the name is on my mind now, I have actually seen a couple of Scott's Cheap Flights to it.
To Svlabard?
Yeah.
What?
I know, it's crazy. So
That's cool.
not that it can't come up, but it's very rare. I mean, even in the email, it was like first ever, like cheap flight alert.
Well, and if you think about it, even if you get a flight and it shows up to this, and maybe this is becoming more popular. I mean, we're talking about it, so it could become more popular.
Yeah.
You're going to pay more than you would for your yearly, you want to take a week somewhere. This is definitely a specific almost pretty much a once in a lifetime kind of trip.
Although I hope we can go back in the winter.
Me too.
I'm
for
just
sure.
curious. Anyways, so often how we pick is we have the deals and then we kind of either wait for the points to match up or we wait for Scotch cheap flights. And then that allows us to save a ton of not only cash, and of course when we say cash we just mean not points, not credit card points. But it also can save you a ton of points and miles. This one is a little different because it started as a grant-funded trip for me to the mainland of Norway. And of course, grant-funded trips aren't necessarily something everyone has access to, but this could be a lot of different things. So this could be you have a business trip, or you have a wedding to go to, or, like you're going to visit your kids who are studying abroad. Like there's like a reason that you're getting there essentially. So it's like you're already somewhere. Where else can you go since you're already there? Is essentially the idea around this.
Yeah, I like that because that's pretty much why we got here.
Oh, it is 100%.
There's two ways we could think about it, right? One is you're doing expedition, you want to find this location specific, you budget whatever, but you can also find something like this really fun when you have something else. Hopefully someone's paying for it, like a destination wedding, or like we said, Shelly had a grant for teachers. So if you're a teacher out there, definitely look it up. She'll share with you if you contact us.
I will.
But we used that grant specifically to try to go somewhere that we knew would be more costly.
Yeah.
And then especially adding on something like Svlabard was perfect extension and use of that. So it's kind of like it comes to us through an opportunity, and then we find ways to explore beyond where that opportunity might bring us.
Exactly. So this was literally the result of me having Google Maps open and zooming out and being like, where's somewhere really hard to get to from here that like we wouldn't otherwise go? And enter Svlabard in the island of Longyearbyen. No, Longyearbyen is the town.
Yes,
Svlabard is the
town.
island. I know, I just did this wrong a minute ago too. Longyearbyen. Northernmost town in the world. It's also where the global seed bank is. I don't know if we mentioned that.
That's how I first learned of this. And that's what Shelly and I were saying before. It's funny because we both had seen videos of Svlabard, but in a context of like science class,
right?
Or like National Geographic, you never really think about. And I'm sure someone's listening is going, is that where the polar bears are? Because that's another big video out there is like, there's more polar bears than people or whatever, right?
Yes.
And this is exactly the place we're talking about. So it's not a place that you think of necessarily as like going or that you can even are allowed to go. You know what I mean?
Yes, which you'll see soon that like it didn't ever feel like you were allowed to be there the entire trip.
It felt like I remember when we stayed, we're going to talk about where we stayed, but walking out of there felt like you were at a James Bond movie at like some facility because there's so much, I mean, it was a coal mine, but there's so much commercial like research and all these other, it's very industrial.
Yeah.
Because it kind of has to be.
Right. I felt like I was at like a National Geographic base camp.
Yes.
Like I was like, am I supposed to be here? Like, I feel like I need to be more important
I feel like I don't have the badge. Like not authorized.
And I feel like when I brought up like, hey, what if we extended this and went to Svlabard? You were like, what? Like, I mean, you're on board for most of my crazy things, but this one was like particularly crazy. So it was a bit of a leap even for us, like this whole idea of Svlabard.
It was perfect though, because the point of the trip for you was climate change.
And it's perfect.
It's like literally that's a big reason people are there.
Yeah.
They study and monitor the climate because it's such an area that you can see massive shifts, just like in Antarctica.
Right,
they drill the ice.
The other side,
yes.
Yeah. No, exactly, because obviously in the extremes is where you're going to see the most like change quickly. And so, yes, exactly. That was like the perfect addition to this. So anyways, Svlabard was a hard one to budget for. So I'm going to start with that. And so this is where like, if you have a trip too where you kind of have to get creative with budgeting, this may be helpful. Maybe we get some little hidden tips in here. But in general, budgeting for Norway was pretty challenging. I think out of all the places we've ever been, and I'm talking both mainland Norway at this point and Svalbard, like eating out at restaurants was difficult.
In Norway, specific. Yeah.
Norway, Svlabard,
Yeah.
Norway. By the way, Svlabard is part of Norway, but like not really. It's like a weird thing. It's like is part of
Yeah.
the country, but it isn't.
It's essentially Norway, but
But we
there's
had to
other
go through
countries
literal like passport control to get there,
Yes.
even though we were in Norway to
Yes.
start with. So it is kind of funky. So, but it is technically part of it. But I'm talking both Svlabard and Norway here. Eating out is kind of a big deal there. So it's like you don't just go casually very often. It's like kind of like you're going for an event. So it is very hard to find kind of reasonably priced food.
Yeah, you're either like eating a gas station hot dog, which were pretty good.
I was
going
gonna
to
say that sounds like it's
Yeah,
bad,
it's
but
not
actually
like-
that is the thing there. So
better
like
than an
that's a
American
thing.
truck
Yeah,
stop, for
right,
sure.
right.
But it's either something like that or like a Michelin star.
Right. So if you look up my very favorite thing in the world to do, go on TripAdvisor, look up cheap eats, like nothing comes up except like you said, like the gas station hot dogs. And you know, you can only eat so many of those before you're like, all right. And we didn't have a car, so you know, it wasn't the thing.
I think if you're going to Norway in general, it's outdoors is awesome, and you should definitely get a place that has a kitchen or a small kitchenette.
Yes.
That's the way. So anyway,
Yes.
just if you're thinking about it. Svlabard, a little different, I'd say, and depends on how long you're going. But if you're going like us, there were some options. But we did have to be careful how we budgeted.
Mm-hmm. So in Svlabard, like there are like a dozen restaurants. Like it wasn't like this place is popping. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going along your bin and you're at a base camp. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
And the places that were there were awesome.
Oh yeah, and I actually think, ironically enough, I found them more reasonably priced than mainland Norway, which you would think because there's not that many that they would be way expensive, but it wasn't that the way.
Part of me wonders if there was a tax difference,
Mm.
or maybe it just was the nature of the people who live there, the economy settled out differently. Because, you know, I don't think there's anyone that can be born there. And there's no
right.
one that is technically like a citizen of there.
Right.
You could pretty much go there without a visa to work. It's a very
yes, that
unique
is the
place.
thing there, which is very interesting. So it's actually more diverse than mainland Norway.
You meet all kinds of people.
Right, because you don't need a visa. It's I think one of the only places in the world where you can live there visa free permanently if you want.
If you can survive the endless night and endless day.
Yeah, so we
6
mentioned
months a
Midnight
year.
Sun. If you're not familiar, in Svlabard, the sun does not set for the entire summer, and the sun does not come up for the entire winter because of how far north it is on the globe and because of the tilt of the earth. There's literally endless sun or no sun at all for like 3 months each of those times. So like for 6 months of the year, the sun is either always up or always down. So you only have like an actual sunrise sunset for the other 6 months of the year, or maybe even less than that. So it's a wild place.
Yeah, so maybe that's why it's visa free.
Yeah, people are like, you know what? If you can do it, you're here.
I'm trying to remember if we asked people what was worse, the winter or the summer.
Yeah, people definitely the winter.
I think the winter, because you can always escape the light.
Yeah,
But
we
if there's
have-
no light to be
curtains.
found, that's
Oof,
tough.
Oof. Talking about seasonal depression, like that's
Oh,
a
for sure.
serious thing. And the guy we talked to was like, "Yeah, people go crazy here." And
Yeah,
I was like,
I don't
can
think
imagine.
you can last too long unless you're a very unique
Mhm,
person.
right? So we assumed about just going back to our budget here. For lunch and dinner, $50 a person, which again, that's pretty high.
It's
for-
definitely on the high end
Yeah.
of where you can go in the world.
Right. But thankfully, in Svlabard as well as mainland Norway, many of the hotels come with a free breakfast, and it's a nice free breakfast.
Oh, the breakfast was the bomb.
Yeah.
Like that, if we didn't have the breakfast at the places that we rented or got, not rented, got rooms for,
Yeah.
whatever, I think we would have been $1,000 more out or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
But
yeah.
the buffets were excellent. The food quality was great. And we always were able to like grab a couple things and make a sandwich or something, which was awesome.
Yeah, so then, speaking of what we're saying, again, there are only about a half a dozen or so hotels in Svlabard. So when we're talking small, this place is small. And it's not like, oh, you can just go outside the city. Nope. This is it. Like, here's a one road. And so there's 6 hotels that we had to choose from. There's only one chain, and it's a Radisson owned by Choice Hotels, but it's a different group from the U.S. So you can't use points and miles here. Like, it is, you're paying cash. And not even like a cheap cash rate. So you could purchase or race this from Capital One, like if you wanted to like think about how you could do some points and miles. But we didn't choose to do that. It was paid for by the grant, and also it wasn't that expensive, so it was okay. So we went with Marianne's Polar Rig. It was awesome. I would classify this as a hostel.
Yes, for sure, because you could get different types of rooms. I
Yep.
think there were singles. Were there
Yep.
shared area?
There was anytime there's a shared bathroom, I consider it a hostel.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, it felt in that vein.
Well, it had a kitchen and like a hangout
had
area.
A communal spaces,
Yeah.
the kitchen, a really awesome restaurant that was like a greenhouse.
Yep.
This place was so cool. So
It was so cool, but it was so weird.
Yeah, well, let me give you a quick rundown of like some of the history of Svlabard. Longyearbyen was mostly a mining town, and there is still mining operations there. But the Polar Rig kind of pays tribute to the miners, and you kind of live like they may have, going back to their, I don't know, whatever their home would be. So if I remember correctly, everybody has to take their boots off.
Yep.
And there's like slippers inside because you don't want to track dust and everything inside. And there's just a lot of like memorabilia everywhere. So it's really cool. And was there like a pirate ship outside?
I was about to say
there's some sort of ship that you
there
could
was
sit
a pirate
in.
ship
It was awesome.
and like a whole bunch of like Christmas trees. It was a very odd.
It
was very cool.
It was cool.
So and they had like a mannequin with all the coal mining gear on outside. Yeah, it was a cool spot. And the nice thing about Longyearbyen, I keep saying Svlabard, but what I mean is Longyearbyen, is you can walk everywhere because
you can
it's like
as
one
long as
street.
you're inside the city limits.
Oh yes, because there are polar bears. And although I'm very sad we didn't get to see one, but maybe I'm not so sad because they like hunt people. But yeah, you have to have a gun if you leave the city limits. And this is also another reason I saw a video on this is they have like gun safes like in all the stores because like they don't really want you like carrying around a gun in the grocery store. But if you go outside, especially in the winter, a lot of people do walk around with guns because polar bears. So there's like gun safes in the front of like all the stores, which is very interesting to see. And I think it's literally illegal to leave the city limits without
it's dangerous.
a firearm. Yeah.
So people who live there, they've got their snowmobile, they've got their rifles, they got all their Arctic gear, and it's a cool place.
And actually, one of the stories on one of the tours we took, because we asked the guy like, how often do you see a polar bear? And he's like, I've seen one. I think he said once or twice, and he's been there like 2 years. So it's not the most common thing. And he was not in the town when he saw them. But he told us a story of his like friend who was on the snowmobile. You remember the story?
Yes.
And they stopped to eat, and polar bear is so quiet in the snow. And obviously it's camouflaged. So the polar bear snuck up on them and literally grabbed this guy. This is his story. Grabbed this guy by the helmet and picked him up, which terrifying. But his friend, like shot him, not killed him, just shot him, and he ran away enough at least for them to get on the snowmobiles and get out of there. And the guy apparently still has that helmet with like the teeth marks of the polar bear in it.
That's like,
we're like, that's the best commercial for that helmet.
Seriously, right? That's, oh my God. I remember that story.
That's wild.
I can't imagine. We'll get into our activities because there's another fun story about the polar bear, like safety we had to do.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Let's go back to
the hotel
budgeting. Yes.
Yeah. So the hotel was $300 a night. Definitely not our cheapest find. But that's pretty much what all of them were, honestly. I mean, there were a couple that were way up there, but I don't think there was anything much cheaper.
Was the Radisson the most premium? I feel like.
No, there was one that was really fancy. Like I feel like they called it like the vault or something, kind of playing off the idea of the seed vault.
Yeah.
And it,
probably came with tours.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely some that were up there. But yeah, there were a couple of like more budget friendly hotels. And they were all about $300 a night. So the hostel you could have gotten a little cheaper if you had the shared bathroom thing. We had our own private bathroom, so we paid a little bit of an upcharge for that. But honestly, they were all pretty similar. Like in terms of there wasn't anything super cheap. Like that's just kind of what it was.
There's a limited real estate,
right?
So you're gonna pay.
Exactly. So after seeing the costs of the food in the hotel, we decided we could not swing more than like just a couple days here. But it still was worth it for me to be like, you gotta go, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's only for 3 days, like that's cool.
Well, I think that's what you would do anyway. So, depending on when you went, you would go and book your adventure.
Yeah.
So you're going to be there for as long as you need to be at base camp and then go out and do whatever it is you're looking to do and then come back, and you're probably going to head back to Norway after that.
Yeah. So this is all to say, like, don't be scared to book something, even if you're like, I can only afford to sample this place, like sample it.
Yeah.
It's cool. And a fun turn of events is when we went to go book the flights, which was about $300 round trip. So again, not the cheapest thing we've ever done, but not the most expensive either. I noticed that the premium fare was actually cheaper than the like base fare. Why? I have no idea. Like, I looked at it like 15 times. I was like, wait, what is going on? And so I was like, I guess I'll book the premium fare. So we had like lounge access. We were in the front. There's not really a first class
We
in
got
these sites,
food.
but we were like in the very, very front. We had like salmon. Like, it wasn't even just like regular like chips. You know what I mean? And this was not a very long flight, maybe 3 hours. So it was like really nice. And I was like, I don't know how that happened. like it wasn't much more expensive for economy, but it was like $340 for economy, $300 for premium economy. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, so
keep your eyes open.
I was gonna say, sometimes just make sure you look at all of them just in case. So I don't know if that was just like an oversold flight or what, but it was cool. So that was SAS in case you're curious. So always look at that. And then we had the most interesting man in the world that we sat next to.
Yeah, dude,
'Cause it was Lou, yeah. So this guy's whole job in life is to fly back and forth between Longyearbyen and, well, Brazil, which he lived in full time.
Or Chile. Brazil?
It was Brazil.
It was Brazil? It was a South American country.
Yeah. Anyways, he was fluent in Spanish, but he was Chinese, so he was also fluent in Mandarin and English. Like, this is super smart dude. And he would literally just fly back and forth. He lived in South America full time because he would go on Antarctica tours for the Antarctica season, and then he would go to like Greenland, Svlabard, like that area,
Expedition cruises
to do Arctic cruises, in that season. So he literally just went back and forth season to season doing these expedition cruises, which is like, what a cool job.
Dude, once I met him, so this goes back to like, I don't know how long you could survive these places unless you're a very specific person that loves this like an industry like this.
Yeah.
And he was perfect for it.
Oh, yeah.
But once we talked to him, I realized I want to go back and do a cruise.
Oh,
Because
yes.
if you want to see a polar bear,
That's what he said. Like, that's the way you do it.
You got to go to the ice. You got to be able to get out into the like wilderness.
Yeah, and you got to be there for a little while.
Yeah, you got to take some time.
Right. So he's like, I see polar bears like on every trip because they're, in the ice for 10 days. And it's
Right.
like, you'll see one then. I want to take a photography cruise so bad. He said his favorite place in the world to cruise, and you got to trust this guy, he's been everywhere, is Greenland, which I thought was also very interesting. Like, of all the places he's been, Greenland, he said, is the most beautiful.
Yeah.
And I bet there's a pretty short list of people who've been to Greenland.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
But it's doable. I think that's
Yeah.
the thing. As we've done this, it's not out of reach.
Right.
You just have to plan and budget, like we were talking about.
Yeah, so this is another reason, like, if you're like, you know what, this sounds pretty cool, like, but I don't know why I'd go up there, a cruise would be an interesting reason to go up there. Especially if you're in photography, like, that's got to be the coolest thing ever.
Wildlife and photography, for sure.
So amazing. So when we did get there, it felt like a totally different planet. There's like no foliage there because it's permafrost ground, so it's like dirt, like mountains of dirt, and almost no grass. I mean, it's a wild place to look at. That's why it felt very much like a base camp, because it was like, this is like not a real place. This feels like a different planet.
Yeah, like how could you survive there?
Yeah. So this and Iceland, I feel like, were similar when you like land and you're like, this is a different planet. Like,
Yeah.
this does not look like.
It definitely felt like
the
Mars
Earth.
or something.
Yeah. So yeah, the no plants definitely threw me off, but man, is it beautiful. Because a lot of the mountains still had snow on them while we were like getting into the town, because they're much taller, like outside of Longyearbyen. And you're like going over like the mountain, the snow-covered peaks. Oh, that was such a beautiful.
It's awesome to see from above.
And we were in there in July, so I mean, it's just always snowy at that high peak. So anyways, while we were there, we had some crazy but cool food. This might be like a little controversial in terms of our food, so hopefully we don't like scare you away here.
Well, I mean, like when in Rome.
Yeah, so we both tried reindeer. That feels not that weird. It's like a big deer,
Yeah, it's fine. It's like venison.
We did also try whale, which feels like you're not allowed to eat whale in some places of the world. But it's minke whale. I think that's how you say
Minke
that.
whale, yep.
Yeah, which tastes a lot like a steak and like liver kind of like hybrid.
Definitely like cow, but somewhat richer.
I was gonna
denser.
say kind of like more like I don't want to say bloody, because it wasn't like bloody, but like it had that kind
mineral
of like
iron.
Yeah, the iron. It had like an iron
that's what it
flavor.
was.
That Bruce was the the brave one that actually ordered that. I just tried a bite of it.
I feel like we were there. You kind of just have to see.
Yeah,
You
no,
know
I
what
get
I
it.
mean? So
There was also seal. We did not eat seal.
seal felt like a step too far for me.
Yeah, it's like my favorite animal. So I was like, I'm not sure about this. So we did not eat seal. We didn't eat walrus, but do you even eat a walrus?
I don't know if walrus was on the
I
menu.
saw that.
I don't think that was there.
But seal was definitely on
Yes.
a few menus. Anyways, there was ways for you to try things, which I thought was very cool. Like, like appetizer-y kind of deals where it's like you don't have to invest in getting a whale steak if you just wanted to try it. You could do that kind of thing. And the food was really good. Like everywhere that we ate in Svlabard, I was highly impressed. And we found a really cool bourbon bar. Remember?
Well, it was more than bourbon. It was like Scotch.
Scotch bourbon.
Scotch and yes, I would say that actually I think they have the largest collection of Scotch and whiskeys and bourbon. I was about to say the world.
I was going to say largest in.
I know, but I'm serious. Like I think, which is crazy because in such a small place, they had such really like niche and cool restaurants in this bar, like where people, even locals, would go hang out.
Yeah,
but you can get pretty much like anything.
Yeah,
they had rare casks of all kinds of whiskeys and scotches,
and it was cool because it charged by the ounce.
It wasn't even that expensive, to be honest.
No, but again, like that's another cool thing where it's like I can't afford to buy a ton of this really expensive bourbon, whiskey, scotch, whatever it is, but like I can afford some.
Right, and that was cool.
Was
nice.
Nice.
You could just take like a little taste of something really special.
Yeah. We also went to the Husky Cafe, which I think is also probably famous on Instagram, where there's like, huskies that just wander around this cafe and you can have a coffee there.
That was fun.
It was fun. They're great. So that was another one. And then we also went by another kind of like library cafe.
Yeah, wasn't it like a community center? And
Yeah.
there was a movie theater in it somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. That was good too.
That was another good one. So there was our like $50 a meal kind of budget. And I think we did a good job staying around that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And we got to sample like everything.
I was going to say,
was
yeah,
too.
it was totally good. So there was our budget we now have our food budget and our hotel, like accommodation budget. And now we got to talk about like things to do, activities.
Yes.
Typically, this is not a huge part of our budget, I would say.
Yeah, I think we tend to do things that are more or less free or self-guided.
Yeah.
And that's not really the case here. You've really got to put some money into the activities you're going to do because they're, what's the word? I mean, they're complicated.
Yeah, they're
right?
not something you can just kind of like walk into a church and be like, this is pretty. And like, like what you can do in major European cities.
Or walk down to the shore and rent a kayak from somebody at a stand.
Exactly.
Like, no way.
Right, exactly. So typically we don't have a ton of money for activities in our budget. So this was kind of a different thing for me, like a new line item.
Yes.
And it was not, and it was not.
Shelly got a whole new planner just for this.
And it was not a small like line item budget.
Oh no.
It was maybe the most expensive
Definitely.
of all the things. So there's not much to do around the town that's not tours. And again, this is not something we're used to. So we had booked one thing that like I was sure we wanted to do. And then I was like, oh, for the other day that we're there, the other full day,
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Like,
well, because there were 2 museums,
mm-hmm.
and I think we decided, we can go in a museum. I mean, they're cool,
yeah,
for sure. Because there's the university there, and then there was another one about Arctic exploration and all of that. And then you can go to the seed bank.
Yep.
But beyond that, we really have to book some expedition with somebody.
Yeah.
So we thought we might do that. I think once we realized that we didn't want to pay the entrance fee for the museum, but rather get out.
Yeah.
That's when we were like, oh boy, yeah.
I guess we're booking something
We're dropping
else.
some money. Huh?
Yeah. And so it may have been cheaper if we had had the chance to kind of like look at this.
Plan a little bit more.
But, this is what I call the travel tax.
Yeah, and
we
we did.
Got something.
We did. So the big one was our glacier kayaking tour, which was amazing. And somehow Shelly and I don't know why we do kayaking like everywhere now. Just
we have
become
like
a thing.
Fallen into being like pretty major kayakers,
Yeah.
but like we never set out to do that.
No, it was never intentional. I think it just kept coming up.
Yeah.
As something we've chose pretty much everywhere we've gone.
Yeah. I think it started in Croatia.
Really? Just off the cuff when we went to Dubrovnik?
Yeah.
What's funny about that then is that cruise, which was the first cruise we ever did, that was not on the itinerary. but it's because
right,
we
yeah.
went. So it's like by chance we happened to change the itinerary because Rhodes was closed. No, it was Cyprus. Cyprus was closed because of COVID. So we went to Dubrovnik and we walked and saw the kayaks, and
we're
it
like,
was
sure.
awesome.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing ever. Oh, but we did kayak in Key West before. Anyways, the point is, we have just
We'll do our kayaking episode another time.
Yeah, we have just randomly found the coolest kayaking trips in the world. Just,
yes. Legit.
Randomly. And this was probably the coolest.
Yeah.
So this was glacier kayaking. And I actually, maybe I'm ignorant to this, but everyone else knows this exists. But in my head, a wetsuit is what you wear when it's too cold in the water. Like, it's like the way you stay dry, even though it's called a wetsuit. And you don't like stay dry, but you know what I mean. Like, it keeps you warm.
Yeah.
We actually wore dry suits, which I didn't know existed. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't know it was a thing.
Next level, because the water is like so cold.
Kill you
It'll
cold?
kill you.
Yeah. Yes. So it's a dry
It's like
suit.
super frozen salt water.
Yes. It literally like is super tight around like your neck and your arms and your feet. You also have like booties on. And it has like 3 different ways you zip it up. It's like a crazy contraption. So first you had to get into that. Then you had like put this bib thing on because you actually sealed yourself into the kayak.
Yes, because they're sea kayaks.
Yes, right. Yes, you get into them and yeah. So you seal yourself in, which we also did in mainland Norway.
Yep.
Sealed ourselves in, which is the only 2 times I've ever done that. And yeah, we had all kinds of gear on for this glacier kayaking. And it was amazing. We were sitting there watching it like calving the whole time. And it was awesome. The guy was literally like, if something huge falls off the kayak, or the glacier,
get out.
You got to get away because it's going to create this crazy tidal wave.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to get icebergs hitting you.
No, but you actually went through icebergs. They called it the icebreaker.
We need to show. I think we need a video like on our website. We got to find some videos. You guys should see because it's really cool. But before we get like into the
it's definitely on my Instagram under my Svlabard highlight.
Yeah, okay, go on the Instagram. I forgot Shelly did. It's a highlight reel essentially.
Well, it's a highlight. You don't
highlight.
ever use Instagram.
I'm terrible
but
at this. There's
reels,
reels,
like
there's
circles,
stories,
and it's stories. And I just saved it, so now you can go back and watch the story.
Okay, so go on the Instagram and you'll see it.
Yeah,
but maybe
cool.
we can still pull just like one little
clip.
Yeah, one little clip. But I just want to remind because remember we were talking about the polar bear.
I was literally about to say
yes.
I know you want to tell that story.
So we took a boat across. It's like kind of like you're in a bay of sorts. So there's different areas you can go to, and they have a specific glacier shelf that they go to for this. We went out on the boat, and then you take a little dinghy, and Shelly and I were the first people to go out with the guide. And the reason why we only went a couple of us is because you have to get to shore. He takes his rifle out and his binoculars, climbs the hill, and scouts the entire area for polar bears, which felt somewhat like, I mean, he was like, yeah, you were going to be fine because of the season, but he's like, but you never know.
Yeah. So literally we were the test dummies. So we just sat on the shore being like, hope he doesn't find a polar bear.
Yeah, because he's like, stay on the boat.
Yeah. Well, we weren't in the boat, but we were literally on the shore.
Yeah, take cover.
Right next to the boat. Yeah, he's like, don't move.
I guess it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's not that likely, but if it were, you have no chance. It's like what they made it sound. I mean, legitimately. So there's an element of fear.
But it's a healthy fear. He also said if a walrus comes, they're really nice, but they may capsize you because they just like to play.
The walrus thinks, they want to play with you, but they're so big
that they capsize your kayak. So they stay away from the walrus.
Yeah, and he said you've got to take your paddle and slap the water all together and be like, go away.
Yeah. We did not see a walrus there. We did see a seal.
Yes, we did see a seal. Yeah. He came in and
he kind of just hung out
us.
and then left. But yeah, that was a wild time. The glacier kayak was very cold, but it was beautiful. And then the other thing that we ended up booking, because we were like, this isn't really a place you just kind of hang out in. Like Svlabard, there's not a lot to do. So we have to go out somewhere, is a walrus safari.
Yes.
So that was also fun. We took another boat in a different part of the bay.
We got lucky too.
We did.
Because
we're at the end of the season.
Yeah, we were at an interesting time. I mean, it was summer. So the glacier kayaking is the perfect time for that.
Yeah.
But wildlife, they all kind of go follow the ice.
Right.
And obviously where we are, the ice has kind of melted a bit.
Right.
But we got super lucky. We went out, saw the walrus.
And there was a baby.
There was a baby. That's right. It was like the 3 walrus that were left.
Yeah.
And they were hanging out.
Potatoes. There's well, the one was playing, which was very fun. But yeah, the other one was kind of just laying on the on the beach,
Yes.
which is just a wild time. But yeah, so I will say I'm pretty sure that both of those excursions, like if we're talking budget, I think both of those were $250 a person.
Oh, yeah.
So they were, like I said, this was not a cheap trip.
Did they both come with lunch, or was
Yes.
it just one?
No, both of them came with lunch,
Because
I
I
think.
do remember, and like
and
beers.
drinks.
Yeah.
And they were well put together. The guides were all amazing.
Oh, they're
Like
experts.
everything was great. They just weren't, it was not a cheap trip, even though it was only a couple days. It was a couple $1,000s. So, it definitely was one of those, like, we're already here. It feels like we have to take advantage of where we are, and we just got to go for it. And sometimes you just got to go for it.
I think it's cool. And you support people who do these more specialized things
Yep.
in these cool areas.
And almost all of it ties back to conservation.
Yes.
Of something around the area.
Pretty much everyone we saw had some training or expertise in wildlife conservation. Didn't we? I'm remembering another thing now. Didn't we pick someone up from the field?
We did.
Yeah, so I think it was the walrus trip. We got a radio. The boat must have got a call from somebody that was like, we need to get somebody like out from the wilderness.
Yes.
And we met with another boat and picked up this guy from
Wow, that's
the Czech Republic.
That's like in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
Yes.
he just like
He was a botanist.
he's a botanist whose whole job, and he was from the Czech Republic. I think
yep.
he worked for the government, like science department or something.
Yep.
And his whole job was to go out and count and study these like little plants.
Like
I forget.
specific plant.
Yeah,
Yes.
like that grow in the tundra.
Yeah.
And like just report back. And he was
totally
out
forgot.
there with his rifle and like a backpack.
Wow. That is like a deep memory that you just brought
We
back.
pulled him back to
the shore.
base camp. Yeah.
That's the other thing. Is like it just feels like if you live here, you have to be ready to like help the researchers, because that's really why this place exists.
Oh yeah.
Is like we gotta research these different things that only exist in this one place because of how kind of rural it is.
And I'm glad it does. I mean, glad it's supported, because it started as coal mining.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's transformed more towards, well, you can't just take from the land completely.
Yep. Right. So anyways, that is our trip to Svlabard, and why, only a couple days here cost a couple $1,000s, but why it was still worth it. And I mean, I definitely would do it again.
Oh yeah. I mean, a few days, you think like a couple $1,000s, but like packed with opportunity and just experiences that we'll never forget. Pictures that are otherworldly.
And sometimes you just got to take the chance and know that money will come back. I know you can't do that forever. Like I go back and forth between like being Scrooge and like saving every penny of ours and being like YOLO. So I'm that person. But if you're going to be somewhere where you have the opportunity to visit somewhere that otherwise would be very difficult to get to, like this, just do it.
Take it, yes. But and if you have any way of getting any funding, explore those options.
Yeah.
Because I bet they're out there beyond just education.
Oh, yeah. And like I
there's
said,
gotta be
business trips,
definitely
weddings, going to visit people like that take advantage of those things, and kind of like your positioning flight into places that, again, are hard to get to otherwise.
Hard to get to, but so worth it. So hopefully we inspired you to get out there, take that trip, even if it's a big one. We'll see you next time.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.